Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let's knock this out. Alright, first question. Hi Jason, you said you were changing to a hook grip. What are the benefits of a hook grip? Why can help to prevent a bicep tear? What's the science behind the hook grip? How to perform it correctly? As far as performing it correctly go, I'm not really ready to give a tutorial on that. I need to figure out how to use it correctly, and I need to build mine up. I will say though, if you guys look around, there's some good stuff on there. I think Dr. Deadlift has some good stuff on the hook grip. And Clint Darden, if you guys remember Clint Darden with House of Biceps, I think he still has a good YouTube video up on it. So either one of those guys can show you how to do the hook grip. Now, as far as the reason it doesn't tear biceps, because it's basically a double overhand with your thumb tucked under instead of over. And what you're basically doing is normally we prevent bar roll by doing the mixed grip, right? And that basically lets you squeeze it and hold them in rotation and anti-rotation against each other. With the hook grip, rather than do that, you're using the friction. The way I understand it correctly is you're using the friction of the thumb to help grip it. Now, I messed around with it actually today before I recorded these, and I have to say that shit hurt. So I need to rewatch some of these tutorials myself on how to do it correctly, and I need to just work on building it up over the next few months so that I can do that. But the reason it doesn't tear a bicep or doesn't risk it as much is because your hand is pronated. You don't have supination of the bicep. And so you're not putting that deep stretch on it. You're not putting that deep stretch on it that you get with the underhand grip. Because when people tear biceps on deadlifts, you'll notice it's always the underhand grip that tears. Now, some people say, well, why can't you just double overhand grip it? Because no one's that strong. No one has that kind of grip strength. I mean, I know there are plenty of 600 to 700 pound deadlifters who will tell you that their best double overhand grip is like 400, 450. That's like the best they've ever pulled off. So essentially it doesn't work beyond a certain point. So you pretty much have to either use straps, a mixed grip, or a hook grip at a certain threshold. And I'm way beyond that threshold at this point. I'm, obviously well over a 500 pound deadlifter. I mean, I do work sets for reps well above 500 pounds. So, I mean, probably my best double overhand grip, I don't think I could pull more than 405 that way. So I personally need it, and the vast majority of you will too. When you start saying, hey, I want to get to a 500 plus pound deadlift, most of you are going to have to use something besides normal double overhand. So, you only have 3 options there. All right, next question. What do you think about squatting with a safety bar? I like it more because the weight distribution allows me to stay more upright. I also find that it works my upper back more. All right, brother. I like the safety squat bar. I've owned a safety squat bar before. If you guys recall, back in the Ice Cream Fitness dungeon, it doesn't allow you to stay upright more. It forces you to stay upright more. I think you're confusing that there. You don't really have a choice, and it's similar to a front squat in that regard, in that it trains you to have to stay upright. And I would describe the safety squat as almost a hybrid between the front squat and the high bar squat. That's the best way to look at it. That's the best way to look at it, just because of the distribution of the weight. And it makes sense when you look at how the weight's distributed, and that's the whole point. And it's easier on people's wrists than doing a front squat. Now, I personally these days have gotten my flexibility to where I can do a front squat with a full grip. In other words, I can actually put my thumb over the bar now. I don't hold it in my fingertips for front squats. And that's what I've been doing actually as of this last week. I finally have got mine to that point. But a lot of people can't get that wrist flexibility and that shoulder flexibility down very easily to do that. And the safety squat bar is a good compromise for people who want a lot of the benefits of the front squat. I wouldn't necessarily use it as my primary exercise, but I think as far as squat accessories go, it is a very, very good accessory exercise. And I mean, hypothetically, a person could use it as their primary exercise. I don't think it's necessarily a problem, but I don't think you're going to get as much overall development as you will with a back squat. So, I mean, but it's still a fantastic exercise. And I think it definitely has its place, definitely for people who need some exercise variation or a squat accessory. All right, next question. Hey Jason, I've been sleeping most of my life on my left side and have developed some asymmetric shoulders and hips. I'm somewhat new to compound lifts, used to do isolation stuff many years ago. All right, I'm not going to read his full question out here because you guys can see all the points, but he says, any tips on these problems? I will trade a +10 helmet of weaponsmithing if answered. All right, brother, well, here's what you're going to note. You did all these isolation movements, right? And you're still imbalanced. What does that tell you about isolation movements and one arm and one leg stuff for balancing yourself out? Doesn't work very well, does it? What does work is to keep working on your form on the big compounds. If you're asymmetrical there, you need to understand everyone is. All right, that's normal. And it can be something as simple as you might have one leg or one femur that's a ½ inch longer than the other. So what you need to do is, assuming you don't have an actual bone issue causing it, you need to focus on keeping yourself even. Find your footing, find your grip widths, keep everything tight. And here's what this comes down to. You're new to compound movements. You did a lot of isolation movements, right? Means your core is weak. Means your all of your trunk muscles, a lot of your stabilizers are weak. And accordingly, that's why you're shifting around so much to one side and getting all catawampus and all of that. All these stabilizers are weak. You're going to have to dial in, dig in, and spend some time getting perfect form. Even with a lighter weight, learning to get everything tight. Because you're like, I'm trying really hard, but you're obviously very loose. If you're having all this happen, you're not getting tight. You're going to have to learn to brace your core more. You're going to have to learn to pull your scapula in tighter. You're going to have to learn to actually use your body as one unit, something all that isolation stuff didn't teach you. You're going to have to get your form perfect to fix these imbalances, and that's how you correct it. And that's really the only option you have that's going to work. All right, next question. Specifically for chin-ups, pull-ups, and weighted dips when cutting, should you add weight in correlation to how much weight you're losing on a cut to maintain strength? For example, if I'm 180 pounds and I can do dead hanging pull-ups with 20 pounds, that's 20 pounds total I'm moving through space. If I cut down to 160, should I be able to pull up 40 pounds for the same total just to keep my gains? Yes and no. That's a tricky question, isn't it? Because here's the thing. You tend to lose strength in your upper body pretty quick when you cut. So my question is, how fast are you cutting 20 pounds? If you're going to cut 20 pounds in a fairly short period of time, I can promise you're not going to keep pace. It's not going to happen. In other words, if you're doing 50 pounds on a weighted dip for 5 and you lose 20 pounds really fast, like in 7 or 8 weeks, guess what? You might still only be able to do 50 pounds. In fact, you might not even be able to do 50 pounds for 5 anymore because you lost fat really, really quickly, which meant you lost more muscle, and things like pressing strength tend to go down really fast when you start dropping body weight. Now, hypothetically, to keep all of your muscle, then yes, for every 5 pounds of body weight you lose, you probably need to add 5 pounds back to those weighted body weight exercises. But you know what? Wouldn't that hold true on a barbell squat also? Yeah. I mean, a squat's the same thing. It moves your whole body through space with extra weight loaded. But the reality is you simply might find if you cut quickly that you're going to lose strength on those lifts. Then that's because you're losing muscle. So what I would advise to you, if you really are serious about keeping your muscle in strength, then you probably need to make sure that you cut slow enough that you can add the weight back up. Meaning once you're 10 pounds into your cut, maybe after 10 weeks, don't try to cut more than a pound a week, should be 10 pounds stronger on those lifts. And if you keep your protein high enough, you pay attention to your recovery, you can probably do that. But again, it's going to be an issue of how fast you cut. That's going to be the big issue there. If you cut really quickly, your strength is going to go down on these lifts. You're not even going to be able to do the same weight. That's just reality. All right, next question. Hey Jason, love your work. My question is, I do a lot of cycling and I'm trying at the same time to build up the strength of my legs by doing squats. Do you think these two types of work outfeed into each other, or they do not much properly? P.S. I do 4 to 5 days of HIIT training on stationary bike for 45 to 1 hour. And the other days I work my legs with squats for 2 days, 7 sets of 3. Thank you. And if you can give any ideas how cycling can help develop strength in the gym, I would be very grateful. You know what? It's just a matter of balancing it all out. Look, I do a lot of cardio myself, even while I'm squatting. Now, what I will say, if you're doing 45 minutes to an hour, I don't know if you're doing real HIIT. Those are some really long intervals there, because most people doing true HIIT, 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops, and you're done. So what I'm going to say to you is you probably need to separate this stuff up. You need to do some actual HIIT days that are shorter. You can probably get away with squatting twice a week with 7 sets of 3. I bet you can get away with 1 normal HIIT session every week. And your other stuff needs to be normal lifts. But again, you might be doing borderline lifts anyways if you're really able to do it for an hour. But like with anything else, if you balance it all out, and you pay attention to your recovery, there's no reason you can't do HIIT, high intensity cardio and lifts and squat 2 days a week and still get stronger. It can be done as long as you balance your recovery, your life, your food, your rest, and everything out. It's totally doable. It's just a matter of finding balance between those things. And if it really becomes a problem, you may need to cut a little bit of the HIIT out for a little while to get your leg strength up on par to where you need it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time in part 3.